tonight we're going to talk about base chain, but we're really going to focus on Aerodrome, and we'll get into the relationship between the two in a second. But the things that we're going to cover is we just did a quick meet and greet, so it's awesome to see you guys, and we'll do a quick just a recap of what is DeFi and what are the fundamentals. One of the areas that can catch us out though is terminology. So um, uh, Ryan, I think probably that might be something. If you hear a term that you're not sure of, maybe just jot it down in the comments, and then we can circle back. We do have the CryptoEase decoder, which is a resource that gets into different DeFi terminology. I don't know if you've hit that yet. Again, I can't see you guys right now while I'm doing this part. And maybe what I can do though is, ooh, I'm getting smarter. I got two screens. If I bring that over there, oh, nice. Oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah, that doesn't really work for me, unfortunately. Okay, so because I did capture the whole screen, but at least I can see you guys over here on my other screen. So I know that I'm not just, you didn't all just drop and you're all partying or something and like, yeah, that Mike guy. All right, cool. So we're going to talk about Aerodrome Finance and its relationship to the base chain. How do you participate? And then what are two? We're going to just look at two passive income strategies just to get it started. Now, Alex, I know you're in there, and probably most of this you already know. You're light years ahead of pretty much everyone here tonight. And Celia, I know that you're invested in AERO, but I think if I remember, it's still sitting on a centralized exchange, and so this is going to be your opportunity to maybe see a couple of the ways to use it. Is that right? Okay, maybe there's an audio issue, so we'll just keep rolling.
That's correct.
Okay, awesome. And can I just ask you one question? How much AERO do you have right now?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I have quite a bit.
Is it like hundreds or thousands or something like that?
I can check real quick.
The reason I'm asking is one of the pertinent numbers is 400. But we'll get into that when we get into the bi-weekly paychecks, where we can lock once and get bi-weekly paychecks with the Autopilot XYZ, and then we'll do the Q&A. So just screaming right ahead. And I did not choose these images. Clearly this is not a selfie. Maybe it was 20 years ago, but I think Ryan and I, high five. So you guys know who I am, CryptoEase with Mike. We'll breeze through that part. And the intent here is, yes, the session is really focused on our pros, but I always want to help people to connect, the dots, and also to see what could be the next step. Whether it's for you or not, that's up to you. We all have our own individual risk appetites. We all have our own individual incomes and what we're doing for investing. Some of us are, doing $25 a week. Some are doing hundreds. Some are doing thousands. And so it's the full spectrum there. And then some of us have, the income to be able to dollar cost average, which, is really a great way to start. And if we're not, then some of us only have like money here and there. It might be stop start. It really depends on what your situation is. But I like to be able to address all of those. And the goal tonight is to walk away with at least a quick understanding of DeFi and how you could benefit. Just two of the passive income strategies that we're going to look at here with Aerodrome. Now, in DeFi as a whole, decentralized finance, in other words, finance that is not focused on centralized corporations that are on stock exchanges, but finance where we're in control 24/7. We take on a bit more risk in education, but we have higher yield opportunities and greater opportunities to gain. So there is a pro and con conversation to have about that, and that can be very individual. Um, and also a recap, if you walk away from here with questions later, then please go and add them to the thread that we have for this session, and we'll just iterate there or wherever you like, honestly. Make a post. All of you are at a level where you can make posts in the group, and everybody benefits. You would not believe how many lurkers there are when it comes to this kind of topic. A lot of people are embarrassed to talk about their money, and they first want to really feel safe and stuff like that. I mean, a case in point is my mother-in-law, who I like to call on a lot as an example. Julie is, she's light years ahead of where she used to be. We're going to look at how you can create a bi-weekly paycheck, where one of the great objectives with decentralized finance is you want to put your assets to work. It's one thing to hold an asset, whether it's a volatile asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum, or something else, or if it's a stable asset like a stable coin. It's one thing to hold that. But the challenge is that we want, or we would like, at least using decentralized finance, the opportunity to put that to work and to understand all of the mechanics around that. There is, a lot of educational materials on YouTube, but some of them, the quality might vary, your mileage might vary. And some folks are really keen on you buying into their token because they're incentivized. I want to reassure you, the only incentivization that I have is any referral links we have here to support the channel and any payments related to CryptoEase itself. I don't get paid by any of these protocols or to shill anybody. And that's, Alex knows very well that that's a stance that I've taken going forward. So ultimately, this whole conversation and the purpose of this presentation, whether you get into Aerodrome or not, is to help increase your crypto confidence and also understanding more of the terminology, some of the opportunities available. So you're at least going to walk away with some an increased appreciation of some of these opportunities. And okay, so what is decentralized finance? And like I was telling Alex, with the young one being sick and stuff, I was literally like 10 minutes ago, I was jamming out a prompt in AI and I threw it into an app called Gamma that does my presentations for me. And this is not necessarily what I would want you to see as a newbie looking at a decentralized finance. It's not horrible, but it's interpreted my guide. Um, the, the key things to note about decentralized finance is that you are interacting directly with the blockchain. You're not using like a Coinbase or a Binance or a Kraken, where they're abstracting the blockchain away from you, and then they wrap their own app around that and their own fees and their own usage rules and their own et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where they're still effectively controlling your money. Just like when we buy stocks or other assets on the open market, there's all these control mechanisms in place. The big difference in crypto with decentralized finance is that you are taking on the responsibility, number one. Number two, you are in control of your funds 24/7. If you wake up at 2 a.m. and you're like, oh, I didn't have a chance during the week and it's Sunday at 2 a.m., I want to go and do something with my money, I want to borrow, or look at saving, whatever it is, you can go do it. And that also then brings with it the responsibility to have some level of education around the projects that you invest in, but also education around the tools that we use, and security is a big one. So we're not really going to get too much into security tonight, but I will, always have security as one of the topics to mention when it comes to decentralized finance or crypto in general, to be honest. And it was actually just recently that I had another member who DM'd me, and he wasn't sure. He'd been out partying, younger guy, yeah. He'd been out partying the night before, and he woke up in the morning and his Cash App wallet was drained. So he's not sure exactly what happened, but which can be a bit embarrassing. But the first question I have when anybody tells me that they've been hacked or been drained, did you do it on mobile? The answer is it's never been no. It's never been no. And so, one of my steadfast tenets, and it'll be the first thing I tell anybody, it's inconvenient, but I strongly recommend that you do not trade any crypto on mobile unless you're using a secure app, which it would be something like a Coinbase or a Kraken, where they've got their own annoying security layers wrapped around things, and there's a bit more skin in the game for them. But DeFi, I really recommend you do it on a computer, a secure computer, or at least take some of the steps in the security lessons we have to secure whatever the device is that you're using. You'll notice tonight I'm using Brave browser for this presentation. Brave browser is my favorite browser for any kind of crypto tasks, for example. So, the bottom line really is more with decentralized finance is more control, more opportunity. You're going to make more than you will on Coinbase. But overall in crypto, I think even on Coinbase, if you stake your ETH, you're making 2%, which is way better than the bank. That's like 100% better than the bank, maybe for most of us. All right. So moving on. We're doing pretty good. Is there any questions right now or anything? We're all good? Okay, thanks.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
I have about 1,800 AERO.
That's wonderful to hear. That's really wonderful to hear. So, and this doesn't, I'm not assuming that you're going to be interested in the autopilot option, but if you were, the minimum amount of AERO that you can put in is 400, just so you know. But we'll hit that part in a second, and then we'll actually go and show the different apps. Tonight, we're not going to go through actually moving the funds from Coinbase to a wallet and locking it up. I'm going to leave that to the YouTube video because there's editing involved and timing is a factor as well. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I made the full video, but I used a new tool, and I lost my full video. So I've already created actually a whole NFT and everything with the CryptoEase wallet. Now I'm going to go do it again, but I had to wait for those funds. So I remember exchanging with Ryan on that. Okay, so what is Aerodrome Finance? Number one, it's a DeFi protocol, and it's on the Base blockchain. So do we all know what Base is?
Yes.
Okay, Ryan, it's okay to say no. Okay, cool. Do you, your crypto is on a centralized exchange, right? I think it's Coinbase, right? I think so, yes. Okay. So, with Coinbase, you're just working with them as the centralized organization. You're not really interacting on the blockchain. They have a software layer between you and the blockchain, and they're doing all those transactions on your behalf. Now, if it does actually even involve the blockchain. But in Coinbase, and I'll show you. So here's my Coinbase account. This is the CryptoEase Coinbase account. This user interface may look familiar to you. All of them are pretty much the same, the Binances, the Krakens. So if it's a bit of a busy, it usually is a busy screen. But one of the things that we have the opportunity to do with our crypto is in Coinbase, if I want to send my Ethereum right here, I've got a couple $100 of Ethereum, and if I want to send that to a DeFi wallet, like here's the CryptoEase, this is the Rabby wallet, and the wallet itself, if you can imagine that the wallet is kind of like a viewer of the actual blockchain. It's a user interface that represents the blockchain. All of this information you see in the blue in that Rabby wallet is actually physically on the blockchain. It's hard coded, written. No one can change it in a smart contract. But what we see here on the Coinbase side, this is just my account with Coinbase, and that's not permanently written on any blockchain. I'm at the mercy of Coinbase to provide me with transaction records or CSV records, exports for accounting software, and that kind of thing. I don't want to go too far down that road. And Ryan, absolutely feel free to stop me. We got the time, okay? If this is going, too much or too fast or too deep, you stop me anytime. We can handle that. So just to bring it back again, with Coinbase, I'm on a centralized exchange. I can do everything with them, but they're going to make a lot of money off of me. For example, you'll see the average staking rate for Ethereum is 1.75% per year. Now, that's more money than I would have if I was just holding my Ethereum, but I have to lock it up with Coinbase. And they're very sneaky people. I think their unlock is 24 days now. If you're in the US, by the way, in the UK, it's actually longer. It's over 30 days. So they play jurisdictional games and all kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, they are making money with your money. Alex will know because we're both invested in a similar project or same project. It's called SFRX ETH, which is a complicated name. Don't worry about the name right now. But it's a version, if you like, of ETH where rewards are automatically reinvested in the amount, and we're making at least 4% on average a year. And that's one of the big differences between doing things with centralized versus doing things with DeFi. In DeFi, you're in control. You can choose. Wait, that SFRXE thing, it ain't doing anything for me anymore. I'm going to go look at other products. Here with Coinbase, you're tied down to whatever they're offering. But all of them give you the opportunity to send your money out. Okay. And I can send, so this is the CryptoEase wallet. And actually, let me just go back there to show you. You see, there's the wallet address down there. You see that ends in 338084. And if we go here on Rabby, you see there, it starts out the same and it ends the same. Okay, so that's just to show you that is it. And then let's go back to the presentation. All right, so we were talking about what is Aerodrome, and then we were talking about the difference between DeFi and centralized. And then we also want to highlight that Aerodrome operates on something called the base blockchain. Now, some of the confusion about crypto when we start talking about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin as something you can own is moved around and operated on something called the Bitcoin network. And the same way with Ethereum as something you can buy and own and hold, you move that around on something called the Ethereum network. So the names are very similar. They can be confusing. But you have a Bitcoin blockchain, which has special wallet addresses and functionality related just to Bitcoin. And then you have the Ethereum blockchain that is the way that I tell Julie, like in Mama Julie in our one-on-ones, I'm like, these are different fast food chains. They all serve fast food, so it's all crypto, right? But you got a McDonald's, and if you want a McDonald's burger, you got to go to a McDonald's. You can go to McDonald's in this town or the next town, but you can't go to Wendy's and get a McDonald's burger. Okay, same ways. Uh, I might just confuse myself here in a second. I'm trying to not go too deep, but you can't go and buy OG Bitcoin on Ethereum. Can you get different, versions? Yes, you could. But you also can't go and buy OG Bitcoin on Ethereum. They're two separate chains. And everything to do with those chains is written on their blockchains. And so another metaphor might be if you're banking with, Chase versus banking with TD, those banks keep their own records, they keep their own ledgers and their own assets. Your assets are with them. Same ways with what is a blockchain. So there's this other blockchain. It's called the base blockchain. And it has a relationship with Ethereum that's not too pertinent for a newbie to understand, but it is interoperable with Ethereum. You can use ETH for gas. But this one, base chain, is actually backed by Coinbase. They were the instigators, I don't want to call them the founders, of the base chain. And this they did because they knew that would give rise to projects like Aerodrome Finance. And now, today, where we're at today, there's really deep ties between Aerodrome Finance and Coinbase and using the base chain. Another little side note for you that's not in the slides here is that we anticipate very high probability, 9 out of 10 probability, that there will be an airdrop to users of the base chain. And all of your activity on the base chain will count to whatever your allocation is of that airdrop when and if that arrives. So that's a little side note for you. Okay. Now, the way to interact with these chains, we've got to use a wallet. And this wallet right here, Rabby, is one of the recommended wallets that I personally recommend. I also recommend Phantom. Could you use others? You may have heard of MetaMask. Yes. These are all fine wallets that you could use. They all have pros and cons. We're not going to debate those tonight. But we are going to go ahead and just keep on moving. And let's hide this guy. Okay. And again, we've got the time for it. So if you want to pause anywhere, feel free. We were all new ones. It's totally okay. This one at least is a bit more, broken out in the sense of, well, if I was interested in this base chain thing and this aerodrome thing, once we actually look at how to make the money, right? So we haven't sold you the car yet. We just say that there's a parking lot and maybe you might be interested. Is what are the steps you need to actually start going down this DeFi road? And the steps are, potentially significant depending on your background, how technical you are, if you're adept at, installing things and that kind of thing. But again, that's the purpose of the CryptoEase group, is to help simplify this. And when you do get stuck, Celia, you had that wonderful post where you got stuck with your AVG and you figured it out. You did a great job. And then Hendrickson, I think his name is, he posted about some other pool that he got into. That's entirely the point. Is when you do get stuck, take a screenshot, make a post, get the help, and make sure that everything works out. So the steps here to actually, if you wanted to go from Coinbase to the base chain and interact with this project, Aerodrome, is number one, you're going to need a wallet. So, you're going to need Rabby or Phantom, MetaMask, one of those wallets. Now, There's educational materials in course number 2. Ryan, don't know if you've made it to course number 2 yet, but in there we teach you how to install a wallet. Installing a wallet is free. It doesn't cost you anything. But in order to make it work, you do need gas. Just like you need gas in a car to go, you could buy a car without gas, but you're not going to get very far. Same thing with a wallet. You need gas, and each different chain has different rules about gas to use and that type of thing. Once you've got your wallet, you need to add the base network. Now, to be honest, it's really an if needed. Rabby is out of the box, ready to work with base chain. And this might be a little tiny on your screens, but you'll see there's an Ethereum icon and a base icon. And if I click here in the Rabby wallet, then that little blue circle with a line, that's the logo for the base chain. And what you're seeing in our wallet right here is these are assets that are on the base chain that I can interact with in any project that operates on the base chain. So that means any of those, McDonald's franchises, I can go to that guy, buy a burger, I can go to that guy, buy fries, whatever it is. But I can only get from the McDonald's menu. And the same ways, base chain has certain assets that work on it, certain projects that work on it. Aerodrome is just one project, but it's a big one, okay? And I can either buy tokens on Coinbase and send them over to my Rabby wallet to use on Base, or I could just take stable coins like USDC, because one of the things Coinbase is pretty good at is over here when you go to add funds. If I say buy and I go say $200 or whatever, sorry, not today 2000, but 200, it would just pull it out of my bank account, and I've got it set up where it'll just automatically put it into USDC. So you don't always have to worry about each of these additional steps, but mapping it out like this at least causes you to ask the question, how does it work, so that you figure out for your situation. Then you got to do the withdraw to your wallet. This is where you would go from your Coinbase or your Binance, and you're sending it out over the blockchain, over the base blockchain to your wallet. So again, you would go into whatever the asset is that you're interested in sending. Oh, I guess I jumped the gun there. Let's just back up here a sec. This little, hidden menu, it's kind of hidden, right? Is the send and receive. That's for the send outside of Coinbase to my DeFi wallet, or receive from my DeFi wallet. This buy and sell, that's inside of Coinbase. Okay. Same as convert. Those are inside of Coinbase, but the send function, this is where I've already got my wallet set up. A week ago, I sent something to it. I could go ahead and send funds to it right now, and it would land up in my Rabby wallet. We got time for that. We do. So let's go ahead and just say send $10 and add notes. Aerodrome.
Don't you want to send it on base?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, you see, this is stuff I don't have to worry about in DeFi. Now I got to go find my wallet. I got to find the code. This is what dealing with centralized exchanges is all about. 210-857. Now you might be like, yeah, but Mike, this makes it more secure. Somebody can't just steal my stuff. That is true. But once you start getting down the rabbit hole of decentralized finance, you really get fed up with centralized exchanges pretty quick. So Alex was calling out something that happened right there, is that I did not necessarily send that on the base chain, which is probably a good lesson anyways. But all I wanted to do was just to demonstrate for you that I did send something from here to here. And we'd be able to track that. Was it 0.32? Yeah, I received it. That's that little receive transaction right there. And as Alex pointed out, I received it on Ethereum. So it's over at Wendy's, but I thought I was ordering at McDonald's. I like both. When I do like burgers, it's actually true. I don't like either, to be honest. We have a local place that's way better. But that was just a quick demonstration, and really just more for Ryan, in case you don't have that experience before. But you would send the funds to your wallet. And remember, this is where we're moving funds from Coinbase over to Aerodrome. You confirm the transfer, then you connect with Aerodrome, and then you're ready. So now we're going to go jump into the actual fun stuff. And what you're going to notice here is that I was connected. If I just opened this page for the first time, Aerodrome.finance, which is their official URL, you're going to see this screen and you're going to see this little connect icon. All of these DeFi projects will have a little connect icon. And thankfully, we've all agreed that the icon should be up at the top right when you're on the computer. Okay. And these are the parts where I would want you to be on a computer rather than your mobile. What you do is up to you at the end of the day. But over here, you're going to click on connect, and it's then going to offer you the connection choices. You can have different wallet types. This one is a browser wallet, and I get a selector. I know my wallet is a Rabby wallet, so I click it. And there's always confirmation steps in decentralized finance. And this, what you're seeing right now on the screen, is one of those confirmation steps. Just because I said, yeah, I want to connect this wallet, they're not assuming that they're just going to go ahead and connect it. I still have to approve that inside the Rabby wallet. So I say connect. I have to click connect. Okay. Now I can see my wallet is connected. How do I know it's connected? Because I can go and match up the first few digits up top and the last few digits with these here. And I say, yep, my wallet is connected. Another way to see it is you'll notice your balance. Your balance will reflect what your actual balance is. And how do we know in this case that, excuse me just for a sec, how do we know we're on the base chain? Well, you might have spotted it right over here. It's kind of tiny, but this here confirms I am connected to the Aerodrome Finance app and I am on the base chain. If I go here and I'm like, well, wait, I thought I was on Ethereum, and I click Ethereum, do you see how it notifies me there in the app at the same time? So there's this connection that you're always going to see these kind of things. The challenge is each project has its own team of developers. It's not always going to look the same, and that's part of the adaptation to DeFi. But moving ahead, we're on the Aerodrome project. We finally made it here, and we're going to see something very familiar. It's a swap interface. I can go ahead and I can swap on Aerodrome. I can say, well, here's some USDC. I need some AERO. So, let's go ahead and see how that works. Now over here with the current price, I can only get 8 AERO. I could have got more maybe recently, but it is what it is. And this is just like going into your bank and saying, hey, I'm going to Mexico for the weekend. I want to get some pesos. So I want to swap some USD to pesos or British pounds or whatever it is. It's a similar kind of understanding. And what you're going to notice is my wallet balance, again, is up here. I say I want to buy me some AERO. And then there's this information section here at the bottom. They're going to tell you about the fees. They're going to tell you the swap rate, the price impacts, and some of the other little pieces. Like you see slippage. If you don't understand those things, don't worry about it. We're not going to speak about it here tonight. But these are all things you should understand. Do I need to understand it right now? No, I can go click swap. Again, remember we talked about how permission, so he's looking for permission. This is what's happening right now, is saying, hey, yes, you approved connecting your wallet to the app, but now you actually want to move money. You need to give me approval to use your USDC, and you need to pay for the privilege 0.0002 cents. Very, very cheap. Sign and confirm. That doesn't do the swap. That just says, yes, I'm okay to go and do the swap. Now it popped up with the next step, and it says, hey, I recognize this is a lot of info, Ryan. The Rabby wallet, it's very detailed. It's definitely for folks that are really serious about DeFi. There's another wallet. It's the Phantom wallet. It's a little simpler, a little friendlier. And for folks that are just getting started, I would recommend the Phantom wallet. The beauty of Rabby is that they tell you the full truth, whether you want it or not. And we're not going to go through all this stuff right here. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I know what I'm doing. Go ahead and confirm. Give me my $5 of AERO. It says, hey, transaction is confirmed. That doesn't mean that it necessarily completed. I can go here into my transactions on my wallet, and I see the execute right there. Remember, everything I'm doing in DeFi, it's written to the blockchain. That transaction is permanently written there forever. And we can go and show you another time how that works. So this was the swap function on Aerodrome. And if we stop back here at the dashboard, we're going to start looking at the areas of what are those 2 ways that we can make money, right? Remember, we came through here, and then we said two ways we can do passive income on Aerodrome. Now, there's other ways to do it, but these are two main ways. One of them is in the world of banking or corporations or whatever. If I am interested in Coca-Cola as a business, or I'm interested in IBM, and I'm like, I really like what they're doing. I think they've got a good, business case. I think they're going to make money. I want to enrich myself. I'm going to buy some shares of that company. And when I buy those shares, then I become an owner, a partial owner of that company. But depending on the kind of shares that I buy, I get voting rights. Okay, so I can say, when you do your annual general meeting, do I like this direction of the company? That's how I can participate as a shareholder. Now we have a similar concept in DeFi. The difference is that the people that own the tokens are actually steering those projects in true DeFi. It's not a centralized corporation. There's no board of directors. You are the board. You vote on proposals. And if there's not enough votes for a proposal for someone comes along and says, I want to run my business on your platform, and there's not enough votes, it doesn't happen. It's that simple. And it's all transparent. And you can see that anytime. However, pertinent to this particular slide is two ways we're going to look at tonight. One is I can take my Aerodrome governance tokens. Another way of thinking about that is these are AERO shares. These are shares of AERO. And when I go and lock my shares, in other words, show my commitment to the platform, and what a lock is you are doing a programmatic transaction on the blockchain, and you are actually locking your tokens into a smart contract. You in some cases, depending on different projects, you can get them out with a penalty. Alex understands penalties very, very well. That's a good story. If you ever want to have a good story, you can talk to Alex about penalties. And in other cases, they're locked, and you can get them in 4 years. In fact, just this year, from 2021, when I first got into DeFi during the bull run, I had my first taste of Curve Finance, and I bought their governance token before I learned about all the other beautiful opportunities. And I was like, yeah, this is the thing. And I locked it up. And I learned that the longer you lock, the higher your voting power. And the more voting power you have, the more you earn. So that's an important point to onboard. If you find out I can lock something for 4 years and get the maximum voting power, or I can lock it for 1 month or just a year or something like that, but I'm only getting like a smaller amount of voting power and therefore a much smaller portion of the fees, you suddenly start to see why this is actually such a powerful equation. Because you're locking up, you're committing to the platform. That means you got to have conviction. You got to believe in what you're investing in. And in return, you're going to get the most opportunity for fees. Now, each project, they have a different way of doing this. Just like, when I was buying shares in Canada, when I was living in Canada, and you buy shares, then the stock trader folks, they send you these prospectuses and this kind of stuff. I always threw them in the trash. But you could participate in, dividend voting and stuff like that. And here's a similar thing where each project decides how that lock mechanism works. And in the case of Aerodrome, they're using something called an NFT style position. Now, have you all heard of NFTs? I know, Alex, you're good. Celia, I don't know. Ryan,
Yes.
okay, you're good with the concept of NFT. All right, cool. This is not a cool picture. This is not some piece of artwork. It's using that NFT technology to create a single unique object that holds just your tokens, nobody else's. It's associated with your wallet and nobody else can get it. You could sell that NFT, okay? But that NFT becomes a lock. The beauty of their approach is that it actually creates opportunity for new markets with that NFT. There's other projects where if you go and lock up your governance tokens or your shares, right, that they're locked. That's you can't do anything else. You got to wait until they come out. You can vote and earn in the meantime, but you're locked into that project. The beautiful thing here with Aerodrome, and you're going to see when it comes to the bi-weekly paychecks, is they've got this NFT that gives us a little bit of flexibility. Am I locked? Yes, my shares are locked. Okay, but I can do different things. I can aim my NFT at different projects and get different rewards. So just to recap on this, because we spent a minute here, but your votes help to direct rewards on liquidity pools. Let's talk about pools. when I talk about liquidity pool, liquidity pair, these are interchangeable concepts. This is some of that language issue. A liquidity pair, very simply, is a smart contract where you have two different kinds of assets. And I'm just looking for, I have my cash here somewhere. I think I've got Canadian, and yes, I do. Okay, cool. Look, here's some US and here's some Canadian. Oh, you can't really see it. That sucks. Let's fix that. Give me a chance to breathe as well, guys. Get rid of that effect. There we go. All right, cool. So yes, my office above the waist is very tidy today. So my wife will be pleased. So here's two different kinds. This is Canadian. If you've ever seen Canadian money, that's what it looks like. And this is US dollars. So what I do is a liquidity pair is me saying, I want the opportunity to swap these Canadian dollars for these US dollars, or the other way around. I want to swap US dollars for Canadian dollars. Now, how do you do it in the real world? You go to the bank, you say, "Oh, Mr. Bank, please, can you swap my money? I'll generously pay your fee and whatever else you really want to take out of my wallet, just so I can swap these two." In DeFi, it works different. It's a smart contract. There's no bank manager, there's no bank teller, there's none of that. You are in control 24/7. And you're like, I want to swap some of these US dollars digital to some of these Canadian digital dollars. That's what a liquidity pair is. However, sometimes liquidity pairs can be similar assets like your US dollars and let's say you have USDC, which is a US dollar stable coin, and then maybe some other US dollar stable coin. Or it can be stable assets that are dissimilar, just like we had, the US dollar is stable, the Canadian dollar is stable in Canada for Canada, but the rates are different, right? Or you can go one step further. You could have like a Bitcoin and a US dollar, and you want to change your US dollars to Bitcoin, you want to change your Bitcoin to US dollars. So there's this pool of these amounts of these tokens. And that liquidity pair allows people to swap back and forth. But do they get to do it for free? Hell no. Don't get to do it for free. You got to pay fees. But the fees are nowhere near like the bank. And that's the reward for us, is the second passive income opportunity. And there might be others, but tonight we're talking about these two. When it comes to providing liquidity pairs, is if you have, in the example on the screen, they're talking about AERO token and USDC, a stablecoin. If you have either of those, you can go and deposit them into that liquidity pair, and you become a part holder of that liquidity pair. And if we flip out here just for a visual, if we go and look at liquidity, you're going to see a list on the app of all, these are all pools, right? And I realize it's a lot of info, okay, to look at right now. You can come back on the recording, you can look at this and digest. But I want to point out a couple key things to you. Remember the example was USDC AERO? So this is a pool. And bear in mind, there's different pool types. You got to be careful about this. If you're new to it, you want to understand what you're getting into. But you'll see this one is basic volatile. Then you have here concentrated volatile 100. They got their own little naming convention, but a basic volatile pool means it's a simple pool, and they're calling it volatile because one of the assets is a volatile asset. AERO is volatile because the price can move up and down with the market. USDC is pegged to the US dollar, right? That's stable. But the AERO one goes up and down. That's why it's a basic volatile pool. And you'll notice the volume here is 7 million. You'll also notice that the fees generated have been 20K within the last epoch so far. So epoch is one of those little language things. When you look at your bank statement and you got a savings account and it says, oh, your monthly statement, you earned a penny in the last 30 days. And you're like, oh, awesome. I earned a penny. I'm winning. But you don't necessarily know, well, how much did I actually earn the whole year? And that's what the APR or APY represents. But in this case, it's variable. So, at the bank, it could be variable, it could be fixed depending on the product you have. These rates here are variable. So when you look at them today, this is 16%. Tomorrow it could be 18, tomorrow it could be 14, but it goes up and down. And it depends on the activity, it depends on a variety of factors. The TVL is the total value locked. And this means the amount of money inside this pool. It's $37 million inside this one pool on Aerodrome. Okay. And people swapping back and forth. And whenever they do their swaps, you pay the fees. Remember we saw in Rabby when I went to go swap my AERO, my $5 of USDC to AERO, didn't I pay some fees? This is where the fees are going, right into this pool here. So anybody who takes their AERO or their USDC and they put it in this pool and they participate in the pool, not just doing a swap. A swap doesn't mean you're participating. A swap means I'm exchanging an asset. But I can go and stake my liquidity, my asset, inside this pool, and I will be able to collect part of these fees as a result of that. So that was maybe a big chunk of information. I'm not sure. All doing okay? All right, cool. Celia, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully I'm doing it at a speed that we're all happy with. And we're going to bring it home here in the last 12 minutes or so and still have room for Q&A. So that's the one way to earn. Now remember, the other way to earn was with the AERO governance token. So how does that work? Well, we talked about these liquidity pairs, right? And we also talked about the concept of a share or a governance token, the AERO governance token. Now, if I like Aerodrome, the overall project, and I'm like, I don't want to just invest in one kind of computer with the IBM and say, yeah, that computer is going to make it. I'm just only betting on that one. I want a piece of the whole company. Then you buy the Aerodrome or the AERO token. And what you do is, once you have that token and you lock it up, you can come to these pools and you can use your vote on a pool and say, excuse me, I want to steer incentives to this pool. And this is a way that these different projects, you'll see these little icons, these are all reflect different products from different protocols. We don't need to know what they are right now. But these projects can come here and say, I'm a project, I invented a crypto that, I don't know, does something. And I need liquidity for my project. I need people who have US dollars, who have Bitcoin, or whatever, come swap to my coin. But how do you get that liquidity? You host a pool on a platform like Aerodrome. So I'm going to take my coin and I'm going to pair my coin with USDC, let's say. I'm going to create a pool. I'm going to give it some incentives so that people are like, wait, those incentives look pretty cool. Now notice, I don't know if it's too clear for you, but you see here, we see fees and incentives. So the fees are from the swapping in the pool. Remember that part. But I can say, there's another dude who has, he's got Ryan Coin, and we're competitors. I want people to come to Mike Coin, so I'm going to put 100 grand of incentives of whatever those might be on this pool to bribe people to come and put their liquidity with me to help my project grow. And so that's how you can steer where liquidity goes, is with those incentives. So fees and incentives are what we're in the game for by owning that governance token. And the way to actually go and deploy is using, I just clicked on the lock option on the menu, in case you didn't spot that. In the lock option, this is where we go and lock up our AERO. And you're going to use this function here. Now, remember, I had that, I got a couple more, so I got 13 AERO. I'm going to go ahead and create a lock now. And one day I'm going to collect all these locks that I use in my videos. This is how you create a lock. I just wanted you to see it. It's not a scary thing. Something you should think about, but it's not a scary thing. Remember, my wallet is connected up here, so we're good to go in that regard. We know that I've got money. I've got a little bit of ETH for gas. I'm good there. And then I get into this question here. How long do I want to lock for? And the minimum is 7 days. The maximum is 4 years. Do you see how my voting power is shifting depending on how long that lock is? So if I go to a year, I get the equivalent of basically 1 AERO in voting power. But it means I'm going to get that proportion of fees. Now, if I really believe in AERO and I believe in the passive income opportunity, I'm going to go for the full 4 years. And then I'm going to say, I get 5. So they give you marginally more to incentivize you. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the create lock. Remember, everything that happens with your wallet, there's an approval. They want to check in with you and say, do you approve? You see this up here, token approval? Say, yep, I'm good with this. I know what I'm doing. And then they're like, all right, go and confirm the lock. Now, this is happening again. Let me try and turn my shields off. This is one of the upsides and downsides of using a browser like Brave, is that it has some of the security functionality that can interfere with some of these processes. And if you ever get stuck, it probably relates back to something like the Brave browser. So bear that in mind. Let me go ahead and try again. And now I got to do that confirmation again. Oh no, there's the transaction. So it picked up that I did the confirmation already, and then I overcame the issue with the browser, and now I just went ahead and created a lock. So, thanks to you guys, I've gone and locked 5 AERO for 4 years. I hope this was a really good session because I got to wait 4 years. The beauty, though, okay, back to practicality, is now that I've created that lock, and it takes a second to update, because remember, everything you see on the screen here is going back to some decentralized computers and then interacting with a smart contract and writing it to the blockchain, and then the blockchain has to be loaded up again, and then you're actually going to see what's going on. So if we go, for example, back here, you're not going to see my lock yet. Got to reload. So when you see a little line like this, what's actually happening, it's reloading from the blockchain, right? Now we see my lock, and it's unique lock number 1088899. That's the NFT. And now I have some choices with that NFT. I can go here to the voting side, and if I want to use my NFT to vote, I can come here and choose on the pool I want to vote with. But there's a couple of challenges with this approach, guys. Our principles in CryptoEase are, we're trying to make things as accessible as possible. First of all, there's this huge technical barrier, complexity barrier to DeFi. The opportunities are there in DeFi. The yields are there in DeFi. The opportunity to make more than a bank, to be your own bank, it's all there for you in DeFi. Do you onboard more responsibility? Yes, you do. Does that mean you're taking on more risk? Yes, it does mean you're taking on more risk because you are fully in control. There's no banker, you got to go and beg to do stuff with your money, which can sometimes help you, maybe from making silly decisions. But in this case, the the challenge is that I can go ahead and I can do this right now. But for me, I got a 9 to 5 job. I got, a young sick kid. I don't have time to sit and what the heck is Flock and USD? I don't know. Now I got to go learn Flock project, WETH project, Sand. I mean, I know what these are mostly, but like Red, I don't know what Red is. Oh, I got to go learn about Red. Is that an opportunity for me? I don't know, but they're making 53% today. Well, that sounds attractive, but the problem is this ongoing educational component. You have to keep staying on top of things. And that can be a real challenge and a barrier for some of us. Now, for somebody like Alex, who's like, this, what did I call you? Weird. I called him a weirdo today because he is such a geek. He's, so into all the tech and stuff that, he knows the methods now on how to go about and research this stuff. But even Alex, he's got kids, he's got a job. Celia, I know that you're a researcher. You've done some really great research on different projects in the past, right? But even you got a life as well. You got your husband and family. Like, you don't have the time in the day to be doing this all day long. So I'm kind of building up the picture to bring us back to the paychecks. So those were the two passive income opportunities. Now we're going to go look at how do we create bi-weekly paychecks with the Autopilot. Now, real quick, and is everyone okay for a few minutes if we go a little bit over 9? Are you guys okay with that? Yeah, Alex, you good? Ryan, good? You okay,
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, sweet. So the opportunity here with the Autopilot, and this is not related to Aerodrome. They're a different project. So from a risk point of view, you're like, wait, different project means different team. And so that is something you want to look into. Do I believe these guys? Do I trust these guys? Outside of that, though, let's assume this project is trustworthy. I sure hope so. I got my money in it. But I've done my research and I'm happy with it. Now, the official URL is theautopilot.xyz. Please don't get confused. There's another domain they're trying to sell. It's called autopilot.xyz. It's not this one. So all of the URLs are going to be in that final report. And we always want to make sure we're using official URLs because scammers will try and use Google ads to try and get you to go to their URLs. But remember, here we were on Aerodrome. We created that lock, and here is, and I'll zoom in a little for you. This is the autopilot. Now the autopilot is no clicks, just yield. And what that means is I don't have to sit on a Friday night when I could be watching TV with my young kids or going out to dinner with my wife or whatever. I don't have to sit and study and know, well, what is this? And then if I invest in, am I worried about it? Did something change? Did I miss something on crypto Twitter? And that creates a whole other level of anxiety, which if you're young and you've got time on your side and you want to do it, go for it by all means. And I'm happy to teach you how to do it. But for those of us that don't, and coming from the CryptoEase philosophy, is I'm looking for as many hands-off opportunities as I can get, and so that's what the autopilot represents. So we go ahead and open that app. I'm going to take a quick look at the autopilot and how it works. And so I recognize this is a new interface. We're just seeing it for the first time. It's a reasonably simple interface. But I want to point your attention down to this section right here. This is this doesn't mean I have 5,000 AERO. This is an example, okay, where they're trying to demonstrate their APR. Now, bear in mind, the APR, it is variable. 2 weeks ago, was it 30%? It's up and down. But in my experience, we're somewhere around 20 to 30%, okay? And that sounds really attractive. And to some people, that sounds like insane. Like, my bank pays me 0.5%. This must be a scam. Now, that's a different conversation for you and your risk appetite. But I do want to just remind you, this is APR of a volatile token. Okay. Today, AERO is worth 50, 60 cents. Tomorrow, it could be worth $1. You got to remember, it's a volatile token that you're earning APR on. So if you're saying, I need predictable income, this might not be for you, okay? But in our example, we said, I think you said you had 1,800, I believe. So let's say Celia has 1,800 AERO today, and that's worth around $1,100 today. But in the example here, annually, based on the current APR, which fluctuates, but based on that, I can make $300. And you're like, yeah, but $300 is not much. I mean, that's a couple of dinners at a fancy restaurant or something. But wait a second. The value of that AERO right now is just shy of $1,100. Where are the opportunities out there where you, being fully in charge of your money 24/7, can go and get into something that could give you that kind of a return? I don't know. Maybe you know about it. I don't know about it. I know that it's here in DeFi. So let's assume this is interesting to me. This rate of return is interesting to me. And remember, what is the autopilot? The autopilot is automating all of this stuff here for me. Okay. So it's making it more hands off. And what happens is when I go to deposit, and I'll go ahead and connect my, oh no, not a base wallet. What am I doing? Sorry. So I know that might have been confusing for you because it said MetaMask. Rabby does an emulation. It's not doing it right now. Let me do the embedded. These are my shields. I'm on the right chain. Yes, I'm on base chain. Oh, I am connected. No, I'm not connected because it's not there. Why are you not connecting? It says that I'm being blocked on one. No, I'm not being blocked. That emulation should be on. Let me try it again. Okay. Try and reload. So here's one of the kooky things you're going to see in DeFi. Different projects use different tech to connect to your wallets. And there's differing interfaces that you're going to see project to project to project on how to go ahead and connect to your browser wallet. And in this case, theirs shows embedded, MetaMask, Wallet Connect, and Base Wallet. So Base is a wallet that Coinbase has. Wallet Connect is a connection app that tries to level the playing field between many, many different kinds of wallets. And sometimes your wallet will be in there, but typically Rabby is not in this list. And if I go and search here, let's say, let me give it a shot. Why are you not letting me enter stuff there? I did take off the shields. Okay, why are you not letting me enter stuff? That's annoying. Didn't these guys get the memo that I'm doing a demo right now? Let's try MetaMask. Okay, we got it. So the reason I tried MetaMask a couple of times and then something else is because at first it didn't work for me. And I realized this doesn't create necessarily a really good impression, but there are some of these tech complexities. This is part of that technical barrier. And what you don't always know, but you can always ask in the group, is that Rabby wallet came from behind. MetaMask was the big one. They were always the big one for the last several years. Rabby gained a lot of fame in the last couple of years, but one of the ways they did that was they created an emulation mode for MetaMask. And you can see that in Rabby Wallet. When you click on the wallet itself and you go to settings and you scroll down, and then you see this little thing that says, "Ooh, connect Rabby by disguising as MetaMask." That was a very smart trick they did, where that overcame that what you just saw there, where there was only a MetaMask button, and it emulates MetaMask so that I can make my connection and I can interact with the project. And so here is where you would go and do your deposit. And remember, we talked about an NFT and having a minimum of 400 AERO. You need a minimum of 400 in your NFT to do this lock. Right now, I've only got 5, and I can't do anything with it. All right. So I already have one that is locked up in here, and I can show you because here's the dashboard, but here's this earn component. And excuse me, you're going to see I've got 424 locked up in an NFT, and in my recent reward history, I earned $1. So I can go ahead and claim this $1 now. And in the last epoch, remember we touched on epochs. I don't think I really got into what is an epoch. So an epoch is a period of time. It differs by project. One project will determine it to be a week. Another one will determine it to be a month. Convex Finance, their overall epoch is 16 weeks. That varies project to project, but the language is always the same. So whenever you hear someone say, what is an epoch in DeFi, it means whatever they've decided their period is. The epoch here is 2 weeks. So in this epoch, or at least in the most recent one, 1/1/19, we earned around 23%. Let me go ahead and claim that. And again, permission. Oh, it's almost $2 in fact. Okay. I like that they down rounded that. I like that.
Is this on your 4-year locked up AERO?
That's a great question. So when you participate in the Autopilot, Celia, one of the requirements they have, because remember, what we're doing is we're hiring them to vote for us, so we don't have to do the work, and they're going after the projects with the highest rewards. And as part of doing that, they specify that they're going to do a 4-year lock for you. So if your NFT is not at 4 years yet, they will actually push it up to 4 years. So yes, it is going to be a 4-year lock. Does that answer your question?
What I'm asking is the reward that you claimed, is that on your locked AERO? And so does that then make it compounding if you're claiming every 2 weeks a reward and that goes into your balance? So your end of the year balance might be higher than like the 300.
Oh, okay. So, all right, cool. So what I heard was when I do a claim, does it put that back into the NFT to increase the size of the NFT? No, it does not. The NFT itself is locked. That amount is fixed. So that 424 AERO is fixed. But what I just got is I got another $2 in my wallet over here, and this is the paycheck part. Is if we go look at, so remember I had $70 and then I spent $5, but now I happen to have 66.96. That's because of the additional $1.98 or something that I just claimed. And so now I have the option to go and spend that money whatever I like. I can go buy more AERO, I can go and buy some other token, or I can go pay my power bill. I can send this money to Coinbase and cash it out of my bank. So that becomes that income part. So no, it's not increasing the size of the NFT. The reason is the way the technique that they use here, your NFT is fixed. So when you lock it for the 4 years, it's locking that actual amount. But if you happen to have multiple NFTs, one of the cool functionalities, do you see, remember this was the the little piece we locked up earlier, do you see these little commands down here? Increase, extend, merge. This is when you have multiple NFTs. So if you were to claim all your rewards and go buy another NFT, you could merge them together. And so in that way, you could actually achieve what you want to do, but it would mean that you need to withdraw first from Autopilot. Then you're going to come back here, merge those two NFTs or extend it or whatever you want to do or increase it. And if I go and click on increase, oh wait, that's going to be the term. Sorry, not the amount. But then I can do extend or merge. I could take the rewards, buy a little bit more AERO, lock that into its own NFT, and then come and add that in using this functionality. Then I can come back to my paycheck generators and say, I'm going to deposit again. What's happening at every step of the way is a fee. So they're making more money on fees, but you're getting part of that. Does that make sense?
Okay, so to clarify, the $300, so for my example, it was $300 for the end of the year, correct? Basically, they're paying you out that in the 2-week epochs.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the little pieces of that $300 throughout the year instead of waiting until the end of the year. And then you can take that and use it however you want. So if you want to reinvest in the protocol, you can then go and take it and buy more Aerodrome and then create a new locked NFT. And then you can come to Autopilot and then you can merge your NFTs if you want to.
Pretty much. We don't have to get into that, like the detail. We can always cover the details if you ever reach that point. Because yeah, you just got to do all of that merging. You got to do that on Aerodrome side and then come and redeposit on Autopilot. The one key point I just want to, because if you're banking on that being 300, that's not going to be the case, because it could be better or it could be worse because of this variable rate. So the rate varies period to period to period, or epoch to epoch to epoch. So every 2 weeks, 26 periods in a year, they're gonna, and this is after their fees. So you don't have to worry about calculating anything else. Whatever you see here is the effective annual rate that you've earned, but the piece within those 2 weeks.
And then the value of AERO would also affect that end balance as well.
Right, because it's a volatile token. So those are some of the real risks that are associated to this. Are you always going to make money? Yeah, you're always going to make money. But how much?
What's
so if you need stable income, please go ahead.
It's a little bit riskier, but it's better than a bank. Most banks only want to give you like 0.1%.
Yeah, for sure. What's happening here is you already own your AERO, so you've already made the investment in your AERO. Your AERO is sitting on a centralized exchange doing nothing. So if you are interested in this, what I would recommend you do is do the minimum, do the absolute bare minimum, 400, maybe 401 just in case. I wouldn't do more than that just to test it out, because the minimum with Autopilot is the 400. If it could be less, then I would always recommend test with the lowest you can. As always, be testing, ABT, test it out with a 400, 401 AERO, lock it up. If you're not, so the challenge comes in with the lock period, because Autopilot wants you to be at the 4 years. On Aerodrome, you can go and vary between 7 days to whatever amount you want. So you have that flexibility there. But here you are locking up for the 4 years. So if you decide, wait a second, no, I don't like that, then maybe you got a challenge. But there's another piece that wasn't even advertised for this session, which I'm just going to show you. We're not going to get into right now. There's a place you can go and sell your NFT. So what that means is, if you got into this project using this series of steps and you later on change your mind and be like, I just want to buy Bitcoin. I don't. This is all too much. I just want to buy Bitcoin. Then you can take your NFT that's locked. It is still locked, but there is another platform called Vexy, VEXY.fi, and you can actually trade your Aerodrome NFTs on Vexy. It's a marketplace for Aerodrome NFTs, and I'm just putting it here so it's on the video. We're not going to get all into it or anything, but you do have an out. That's what the real point I'm trying to make. There is an out. Will it shave off a couple of percent? Yes, of course, everybody's going to make some money, but are you losing out? No, you're not losing out. There is a way to get out if you want to.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, because sometimes there's a penalty for unlocking crypto early, and then sometimes there's a wait period for you to get your crypto after you unlocked it.
100% correct. 100% correct. Now in the YT video, I add in the Vexy piece. So I go full in from Coinbase, moving to your wallet, buying the AERO, creating the lock, bringing that 400 lock over to Autopilot, putting it in Autopilot, and then being like, well, no, I actually want to sell my NFT, and I walk through how to do that on the veAERO market on Vexy. And these, just bear in mind, if you're new to it, Ryan, these are all different projects, different teams. This is not all the same team. So there's, you want to have a sense of comfort about things. I don't know what kind of investors, you guys all are, whether you like to go fast or slow or check things out. Of course, we always follow the rules. Do your own research. Bring your questions to the community. It doesn't matter, don't judge your questions. Don't, if you're thinking like, I don't want to feel stupid asking something, that venue, I was that person. This venue is for like any question related to any of this stuff. We're there for it. That's what we're there for. So those are all the moving pieces, and yes, there's an out for you. And let me just run through the slide again and recap. What does Autopilot do for us? We take our 400 AERO, we lock it for 4 years, we delegate. So we're hiring the Autopilot to do our job for us, so we can go and have dinner with our partner. We can, take out the kids or grandkids, live our lives, go to JOBs, whatever, and then we get a paycheck bi-weekly. And here's another explainer. You can go pause on that later in the video. And then we're already in Q&A. So Celia, you've just been asking all the questions. I want to give the guys a chance because they're like, they can't believe this is possible.
I just have one.
For us?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Got it fixed. Autopilot, how much, you may have covered this, but how much do they take out of for fees and stuff? Because I assume doing it yourself is.
That's a great question. Sorry, was that the full question?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. So it's a great question. I don't know the answer to that right now. That's how little it is. That's how little I care. Is it in the docs? Yes, absolutely. It's in the docs. And because you've asked the question, I will go and find the answer. But if you notice here, this says include rebase after fees. So what you're seeing, this percentage here, that is the percentage you're getting over the whole year, but for those 2 weeks. In Epoch 120, it could be 30%, it could be whatever. If we go back and look at the dashboard, do they let me zoom out? So, okay, so these are the different epochs. You saw, whoa, up there it was way high. And then it dumped down in 114. And so these are each of those. And so the average is 22. Could it go down below that? Sure, it could. But let's just talk about Aerodrome, the project, for a second. These guys are thick as thieves with Coinbase. Coinbase, they have a strategic partnership with Coinbase. The base chain is getting so much. Did someone have a question? Oh, that might just be microphone feedback, I think, Celia, maybe. So they're thick as thieves with Coinbase. This is not a single project that came out of nowhere. Aerodrome has been around for a couple of years. I've been in Aerodrome since the beginning. I was in another project by the same team called Velodrome. And Velodrome was on a optimism chain. And they gave everybody that was involved in Velodrome an airdrop in Aerodrome. So I have an airdrop in my personal portfolio, and I've earned in the last 2 years almost the same value as the airdrop back, because Aerodrome is a unique project. Well, not entirely unique, but one of a handful. They return 100% of these pool fees. Where you see all of these fees are all coming back to AERO holders. These are all coming back to, pool holders and us, but they return 100% of fees. That's the pertinent point. Other projects take a cut. They might return 75% or whatever it is. So that's a key thing there. Another thing is that any token that launches on Aerodrome the nature of the relationship between Aerodrome and Coinbase is so tight that if you launch a token on Aerodrome, it's going to be available on Coinbase. It's already available in the base app, but even on Coinbase itself. So let me demonstrate this for you. There's a token, super niche. And if I go here, let's say Toby. Okay, Toby is a meme coin. I got the airdrop for this one as well. I've been in it for the longest time. It doesn't really matter to me in my portfolio, but it's a super niche meme coin. I can buy that right now on Coinbase because of that partnership with Aerodrome. Okay, because there's a pool for Toby on Aerodrome. And so the lights are shining bright for Aerodrome. They also recently did a big announcement. The team that's behind Aerodrome and Velodrome is a project called Dromos. And Dromos, they've just released what is going to be the new version where they're taking Velodrome and Aerodrome and they're combining them into a single project. And they've recently expanded to Solana. So shout out to David. I don't have that pool that I mentioned earlier. I will do that with you in your gold session tomorrow. So I promised I would touch on it. We'll cover that tomorrow. But they just created a bridge to Solana. So now you've got liquidity flooding in from Solana onto the base chain. And they're expanding to Ethereum. So they're bringing Aerodrome over to Ethereum. These are all expansion growth opportunities. So the future is bright. It was already bright for this project, and it's just getting brighter and brighter. But then you got to ask, well, why is the token only 50 or 60 cents? That's a great question. The market sucks right now. We are at the tail end of whether it's a bear trap or whatever it is, before huge inflows in the new year. Generally speaking, Alex, myself, others, earlier in the year, we thought Q4 was going to be rocket, this Q4 now. And it hasn't been, announcement after announcement, games, political games, regulation, all of these things have factored against us. And also the banks manipulating things, trying to get their clients into crypto. But the writing is on the wall. Regulation is on our side in the US. The different government departments, the DTCC that is responsible to an extent behind indexes like the Russell 100, these are all stock exchanges, just got the green light from the SEC to go ahead with real world asset tokenization. That means all your stocks everywhere are going to be tokenized. US government last week just came out and said, yes, within 2 years, everything is going to be tokenized. So all of these statements are happening. And for those of us that are not in touch with crypto Twitter on a day-to-day basis, you might be like, yeah, okay, this is just another crypto thing. But I can tell you that the whole financial infrastructure wrapped around our world in the US and globally is being rewritten and changed under our feet right now. And so for me, Aerodrome is one of the key holdings. It's not my biggest by any stretch of the imagination. It's a key holding in my portfolio. And it's one of the key ones that I'm going to turn to, this piece here. So the Autopilot piece, the hands-off piece, and getting those paychecks, that for me is one of those, we have the phrase bull or bear, I don't care. I mean, we coined that phrase. That's part of the bear part. Because, yeah, a bull, I don't know if you've ever been through a bull run before, Ryan, because you had a wallet coming into the group. But a bull run is like it's out of this world. I mean, you can feel like you're so smart because you just take money and you throw it at a wall and it suddenly doubles. And you're like, I'm so smart. But then when the bear market hits, oh my God, it's going to be so soul crushing, soul destroying and heart crushing, because suddenly nothing works like it did anymore. And these kind of projects where you're buying a piece of the pizza chain, you're not just buying one franchise, one liquidity pool, you're buying a piece of the whole chain and you're getting paychecks printed and you get to go and live your life. And, you're an investor. You're a stakeholder.
Here's the reason why I have a lot of conviction in Aerodrome. Coinbase has been the #1 centralized exchange for the US. Just in case crypto regulation fell through, Coinbase went decentralized by creating base chain. Aerodrome is basically the Uniswap of base chain, kind of like Uniswap is for Ethereum. So anybody who wants to bring money onto base chain and get involved has to onboard through Aerodrome, which makes this passive income thing really appealing to me currently, because that's where the fee generation will come in. And once the economy picks back up, once retail investment comes back into the market and people start flooding in, that's whenever you'll really start seeing the potential of your investment, because it'll be like Mike was saying with the bull run, your percentage will go up, and Aerodrome value and price action will also go up, because there will be so much more people investing into it, because other people are going to start seeing the value in it too. And it's going to have a network effect. It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. Right now, we are like early adopters. We are way ahead of everyone else. Like, the normal person is not talking about crypto. But whenever it happens, it's going to be through Coinbase, through Base Chain, and through Aerodrome all together. That's going to make it happen. And Coinbase, I believe, is going to be the key to make crypto friendly for retail and make it to where, like, all the hard stuff that we do with this transactions with the wallets and stuff, they'll make some type of app to do that on the back end so that the user doesn't see that. It'll just be just like making a normal transaction, and it'll be less scary. And that's what I'm looking for. We're in the early stages. We're not there yet. But when we get there, being in this position right now, you'll be like, I'm so happy I got involved.
I listen, Celia has been a community member for a while. I honestly didn't pay her to say that. It's I love the way you laid that out, Celia. And I've seen some of your research before, and I love the way you lay things out. And so, in a way, if you take what I've said and what Celia said together, and you look at this picture right here on the dashboard, you're actually buying in at the bottom. So what you're seeing here, this is kind of, could it go lower? Yeah, it could go lower. But this is the worst that it would ever be on this particular project. Now, are there others out there? Yes, there are. Is there other research to be done? Yes, there is. Is this the only thing in the world? No, it isn't. Celia has a very high level of conviction on this project. I know Alex does too, for his own reasons. I do too, for my own reasons. Are there other projects we invest in? Yes, there are. But Aerodrome, as a overall project, that's one of the three key projects that I'm preaching in our school community, that as safe landing places for people that want to get into DeFi, where we know the team is proven, the project is proven. What do they do when there's trouble? What do they do when they run into exploits and that kind of thing? They take care of their users. They recently had a problem with their domain, and they only just recently flipped back to Aerodrome Finance. And Celia is well aware of this, and Alex too. And you may have spotted this somewhere as well, Ryan, in the recent posts. I think probably around the time that you joined. And what did they do? They set up the communications network. They also have tokens set aside to take care of people. They made everyone whole that lost any money. And these are key attributes that I look for, because for me, I got my mother-in-law into some of these things. I got to sleep at night. I can't afford to have my family investing in things that later on they're going to come back to me and be like, yeah. So it's a good opportunity, but I like to keep things on the level. Are there others? Yes, there are. And it doesn't mean you need to invest in this right now. This week, your question was, do I buy Bitcoin or Ethereum? This doesn't have to sway that, but it could, and that's up to you. So, Alex, did you want to kick in anything there? Have an opportunity, or are you all good?
No, I'm all good. I'm already invested in all of this, and actually, Celia's conviction statement was like spot on, really awesome.
Thank you.
Yep, it was really, really wonderful, Celia. Kudos to you. Thank you. All right, Ryan, outside of this, do you have any questions more on this at this point in time? I recognize it's a lot of info. Maybe, I don't know how you like to learn. Some of us are visual, auditory, whatever. You might want to go back on the video, take it. But if you have questions outside of this right now, it's a great time. We can take a couple minutes, wrap up at 9:30. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, no, I think I'm all good.
Cool, man. So here we are, folks. Let's at least click on the slide. All right. So we, okay, AI took some license down here at the bottom and said the best time to start was yesterday, second best time is now. That's a very common investing term, right? Across anything. But yeah, crypto, the best time to buy was yesterday. But actually, if we just, for a quick bonus here, let's go and grab one gecko. Let's just go and see, where is AERO at? Oh man, that's still decent.
It's like 60 cents, yeah.
That's still decent. We were below 60 recently, but that's a really nice price. So that makes me very happy. If we go max, you'll see, it was a couple of years ago that you really had to be in it, but that was at the beginning of the project. That doesn't count in my opinion. And the worst case, that was in April. That's fine. So, from my perspective, if I have spare money, and I do, I've got money set aside for the YouTube video to do everything that we saw here, to put all those pieces together, and I needed enough to get the 400. So I'm happy. I'm going to have some change left over after that. But I'm going to go ahead and get prepared for that, and hopefully knock it out if I have the time tomorrow, just depending on the throat and that, and show all of those moving pieces. We did connect a lot of the dots tonight. We looked at Coinbase. We saw, how do I move my money out of Coinbase using the send function? We said, I need a wallet, and we talked about Rabby and Phantom Wallet, and we sent a transaction. Alex called me out on that, but you got the benefit of the demo there. We looked at the Aerodrome project. We looked at how to swap, and how that swap works is it uses these liquidity pools, and how we can earn our share of these fees by creating vote locks that let us go and vote on these pools to direct those incentives. We saw how you create a lock. We created a very small lock, too small to invest in the Autopilot, but enough for a demonstration. And then we also answered Celia's question of, if I was invested in the Autopilot and I had 400 minimum locked up, when I get those earnings, we went ahead and claimed a couple dollars I've earned in the last week or two, and I could go back to Aerodrome. I could create a new lock. I could merge the two together. It's a number of clunky steps, but that's where it's at for this mechanic. That's part of the price of being the bank. But having a community you can come back to and ask those questions and get answers, I think is very valuable. It should make this less scary. Otherwise, it could just be me 4 years ago, where I'm like, hey, how does this work? Oh, I'll just throw $1,000 at this and see what's up. Yeah, and no, that didn't ultimately work out very well. It did in a lot of ways, but save yourself the heartache. I hope this has kind of whet your appetite a little bit, Ryan, for some of the possibility and potential. Is it the only thing under the moon? By no stretch of the imagination. But is it a good one? Yeah, it's good enough for me to recommend this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the session. We're kind of at 9:30. We went half an hour over.
Thanks, Mike. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, Celia, because I really value your opinion. And so, with that, guys, I'm going to say have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, have a good night.
All right, all. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, take care.